So we're going to have a dialogue across difference, and today's topic is on heterosexuality and homosexuality. The group that I'm with, we've been talking about privilege and oppression. So I thought today would be good to talk to your age group about this topic. So I'm going to start with asking as if you could tell me what you think privilege and oppression is. So who would like to start?
Well, privilege would probably be when you're part of a group of people and you benefit from that. And oppression is when, because you belong to a certain group of people, that you have like disadvantages.
Good. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add to that?
I think privilege is when you're put in a certain criteria, and like, you know, tall, short, skinny, fat, Asian, white, black, blue, and from that, like, you get benefits from being that, you know, like just different things. Like if you're tall, you can play basketball better because you're more likely to get the team.
Exactly.
But if an oppression of that would be like, if you were Native American, maybe you get discriminated against, or maybe if you are, you know, white, sometimes even you might not be eligible for certain scholarships that we offer to Asians or things like that.
Exactly. Right, you Bess, is there anything you'd like to add?
Privilege is like a certain, like a benefit or a reward you get when you're doing something or certain thing, or you're part of something. And oppression is like the negative side of it.
Great. So you guys have a pretty good concept of it. I was thinking because at school I'm sure that you're faced with privilege and oppression every day. Being involved with different groups as far as sports, friends, teachers, peers, and even family life. So, like I said, the topic today is about heterosexuality and homosexuality, and because we have that diversity within your own peer group, I thought I could get a lot of knowledge just from you guys about that. So, privilege and oppression with your sexuality. So, speaking from a straight perspective, would you girls like to talk about that? Privilege as a straight female in a rural school, when you're looking at your friends, your family, being involved on teams, what do you notice the privilege to be as being a straight female in a rural school setting?
Well, I noticed, that we have a lot less worries about being bullied or judged for that stuff, about being outside what society calls the normal. And I remember a few years back there was a girl who was gay, she was a lesbian, and the girls were mean to her in the locker rooms because they said that she kept staring at them. Which, she probably wasn't, but it was just, girls are mean.
Looking for it?
Yeah, that sort of thing. And she had to leave. She didn't go in the locker room anymore because of it.
So that would be an oppression for her, right?
Yeah.
So what did she do in the locker? Like, how did she get ready for gym?
Well, she would just change with the other girls, but they said that she would sit on the bench and watch them change. But there is no proof that she ever did that.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So what other things do you find as a privilege? Like, I was talking about family life, other things that might happen at school, education-wise, grades, anything that you can see as a privilege of just being a straight girl in the school setting. Especially rural New Brunswick. I'm kind of looking at that compared to a city school.
Well, because it's rural, like, everyone knows who everyone else is.
Exactly. So
in such a small school, like, there might only be one person who is homosexual in the entire school. Mm-hmm. And so everyone knows that one kid is. So when you're straight, you don't stand out or anything like that. You know what I mean? And the teachers don't see you as anything. You just fit in. You're just one of the country kids.
Exactly. Okay. What are your best
Privileges?
privileges?
Like for a city rural school and
Rural school, yeah.
well, I find in like the cities there's a lot more different vibrant people, and like being homosexual that probably wouldn't even be looked upon as anything most times in city schools, but being in a rural school I think it'd be harder for homosexuals And I find a privilege in knowing that I won't be seen as the one in a crowd out of like 300 people.
Right. So you guys haven't, either one of you said anything about family or anything like this, or anything that you see as a privilege there?
Well,
in
I
your
know, like,
sexuality?
here, like, towards the country and more in the rural setting, like, there's more of a Christian belief, too. Like, there's a lot more of that backlash that
Right.
you hear people talking about, like, in schools and also from families. That, you know, their families are so, you know, Christian and so Catholic or Pentecost and just
Great
so,
point, yeah.
you know, so religious that it just wouldn't be. And here in the country, it's more of roots. Like, you know, what you are for religion really defines what, you know, your parents and grandparents and great-grandparents would all be married in the same church. And if you come home with that and it went against their beliefs, it would be a really big deal. Whereas, you know, in the city, you don't see it as much. It's more, you know, more diversity. Whereas here, it would just be unseen.
One of the things that I learned in the book is one of the points that Pease, the author, says is you don't, something that you notice, everybody has an oppression of some sort, right? So something that you notice as your oppression, you know, one of the oppressions I have is, let's say, disability. So you notice that oppression, it stands out for you. Right, that's something you pick out if you're having difficulty with something, like if I'm having difficulty with stairs or something like that. That stands out for me when somebody else can run up the stairs. They're privileged that they can do that. You can't really understand something really clearly unless you can look at your privileges. You look at your privileges and you really acknowledge them before you can understand somebody's oppression. Does that make sense? So when you look at going to church every Sunday, you know, in a small rural country, like the point that you just made, no big deal. But if you came out as homosexual, going to church, what would that be like for somebody who's judging you?
Well, it's like that one boy that, I don't remember, John Paul's boy.
Yeah.
He's the only homosexual in the whole church, and everybody knows he's the only homosexual in the whole church. And a lot of the old people, you can tell, were looking at him and stuff, but that wasn't too polite.
No.
And everyone knew, and he was there with his boyfriend. They were a really cute couple, but you could tell that he was really uncomfortable with the situation. But he had gone for his grandparents.
Exactly. But you see how that is? Like, you just take that for granted because it's a privilege of yours without being tested, right? So Terry, now from your perspective as a gay young man, privileges, oppressions, would you like to talk to that?
Well, privileges, some people are kind of like interested in you, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Some people like appreciate how like brave it is, kind of. Some people look up to you. So yeah.
More respect. I find that there's a lot of respect. What about oppressions?
Oppressions, sometimes you kind of feel excluded. Sometimes you feel like you're kind of less of a man, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Exclusion. Some people, you feel like you're looked down upon. Sometimes you're a bit fearful about meeting new people because you're not sure if they'll agree with your lifestyle or not.
Mm-hmm.
So those are pretty much the ones.
Expectations of other people. And
Yeah.
so as far as school goes, Terry, like, do you feel that there's oppressions within the school system, like, because it's a rural country setting, education, sports, peers, family, like I'm looking at those types of things. Do you see anything specific to that?
I think the biggest issue would be in family.
Okay.
like in society mostly. Like if they would teach young children, like if they would like immerse them more in that, like understanding what it is, kind of. So they would start to understand it more. Because like schools can only do so much, So it comes to like the way that parents raise their children.
Educate, yeah.
And but yeah, schools like they have work to do. They need improving, kind of. I think that GSAs, gay straight alliances, they kind of work well, Yeah.
Okay, good. I have another question that what would it be like if you had a magic wand and you had a wish, and the wish was that things flipped? That tomorrow morning you wake up and all of a sudden this room kind of changed around and straights were no longer considered, as you put it, Cassidy, normal. And you went to school tomorrow and everybody's relationship that was homosexual was the norm and straights were abnormal. So suddenly if you're looking at a boy, that would be considered the queer thing, the no longer normal society relationship. And for you to have a homosexual relationship would be what everybody should do. What would that look like for you guys? What kind of oppressions and privileges would that bring to you? What would that be like, your day tomorrow? Anybody can start.
Well, privileges, you'd feel much more comfortable, kind of less fearful. You'd probably want to be supportive of them because you've experienced it yourself. I don't really know what to say. People would kind of like realize like how it feels.
That's the big thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That would be a really good education, wouldn't it? That could happen for a day. What about you guys? What do you think it would look like for you?
You can be lonely because now it's like you meet guys every day at school and it's like friendships and possible relationships and stuff. But then to be the only person who didn't, who looked at it differently, to be the only person that did look at guys and have everyone else look at girls, and I think it'd be lonely and it'd be scary. It's not to know how people would take it. And
very similar to the things that Terry was just talking about.
Yeah,
right?
it'd be really, really scary.
Mm-hmm.
People can be cruel, and it would be hard to find people that would accept you anyway. Really accept you, you know what I mean? Because people say they do all the time, but...
And it's really about accepting you for who you were born to be, who you are at core, right? What about you, Beth?
I think it'd be really different, like just trying to make yourself, and you can't, and it'd be really frustrating, and it'd be scary, and just worried that no one would accept you, and it'd be different.
Be lonely.
Yeah, be a different lens on the world, wouldn't it? Be looking in at a different place. Yeah. Another magic wand question. If you had a magic wand and you could have the control of the question and you could say, I want to fix this situation. I want everybody to be treated with privilege. I want no more oppression. How could you fix it? Because you guys are the generation that's coming up, that's coming into the world, that you're going to be our leaders, right?
But there can't be privilege without oppression.
Good point.
like people won't know they're privileged unless, like you were
Unless
saying earlier, like you wouldn't notice that you were disabled to go up the stairs if you didn't see someone running, or if you were able to run up them too.
Exactly.
There wouldn't be any privilege or oppression.
But there's room for change, right? So good point. You made a very good point. And I think that's something that Pease talks about, is we have to recognize our privileges to really understand and undo the oppression. And that's actually the name of the book, is Undoing Privilege in a Divided World. But if we're looking at making change in the world, what would that magic wand do? Like Terry made some suggestions earlier. What could you build from that? You talked about educating at home. You know, messages that parents give. So I think a lot of stuff comes from that. I spoke to a family the other day, and it's a mom who has interracial, like she has an interracial relationship, and she said a lot of the racism that comes to her through her children, the stuff that comes home, that they come home with, it comes from parents. So I get